All right, I'm going to be talking to you about chapter 10 now, new chapter for us. It's called the Consumer Math chapter. You know, we just jump all around this book, so just hang on. If you don't like one topic, maybe you'll like the other better. Also, notice I'm sporting my pie shirt today, so I'm recording the lecture on, it's near March 14th today. You may not be watching the lecture on Pi Day and think, oh, that's just odd. Maybe I just always wear pie shirts. But anyway, March the 14th is considered Pi Day because 3.14 is approximation for pi. So that's the festive reason for my shirt. Anyway, we're going to start with chapter 10 now, consumer math, or you might consider it to be business math. And the first section, 10.1, is just to get us rolling with percentages, using percentages before we move into further topics in business. All right, so if you haven't already, follow along with your note packet. So you should print that off or follow along online, pull it up on your screen, and do the practice problems as we go. It'll be more beneficial to you. All right, so first of all, I wanted to remind you that the word percent means per 100. A percent is simply a ratio of some number to 100, comparing it to 100. Thus, if we say 15 divided by 100, 15 over 100 is the same thing as 15%. So comparing to 100 is what a percent means. So, for example, if you scored a 59 out of 75 on a test, you'd be like, well, what does that mean? What percent is that? So we're so used to comparing things to 100 and knowing our percent and how a 90% to 100% is usually an A and so on. We like to know these things as a per 100 amount. So if you scored 59 out of 75, what do you think? Do you think you got a good grade? Do you think you got an A, a B, C? What do you think? So how do we convert that? That's what we're going to talk about. It's just a better way, kind of a common way to refer to things. So we are so used to thinking that way by comparing to 100. We need to know what is 59 out of 75. Maybe you've already figured that out, but that's where I'm going with this. So what is your percent on the test? Well, you do a division. You take 59 divided by 75. You can do that a couple of ways. All right, so let me refer that to the board here. If we wanted to know our score on a test, we would simply divide that. Now, you can do that on your calculator. 59 divided by 75 equals, on your calculator, it will most likely come out as the decimal equivalent. So whenever you do the division method, you get the decimal equivalent of this fraction, but then to convert it to a percent, we need to go to right to compare it to the 100. So to right makes the percent sign up here then. And some of you all have calculators that you can just hit the little percent button. So check your calculator out. It's not a big deal if you don't, obviously, because you just need to move two places. You can do that, on your own. But many of the calculators do that. So if you have the little button, just hit the button, percent button, and it'll move it over for you. Now, a question might be, what place should I round to? How many of these decimals should I keep? The directions, if you're doing one online or on a test or something, it should say round to the nearest tenth of a percent or hundredths of a percent, but you want to go ahead and get it in percent form. If it said tenths of a percent, that means get it in percent form already by moving the decimal over before you do your rounding, and then tenths place, once it's in percent form, tenths place is right after the decimal. The sixth then would say yes, round that up. So to the nearest tenth of a percent, maybe tenth of a percent, without the S maybe is more appropriate. I'll have to Google that. But anyway, it would be 78.9%. All right. Now, another way to think about this is percent means per 100. Now, you're probably not going to do it this way, but I just need to tell you the other math method for it. The other way, which really makes my point that we're comparing this to 100, would say, take your 59 over 75 and say, what part of 100 is that? Make it a proportion. Say 59 is to 75 as what is to 100, kind of to tie it in with stuff we did in our past when we worked with proportions. And then as a proportion, you could cross multiply and divide to solve that. Now if you use this method, it's already compared over 100, so you won't move your decimal point though. So you'd say 75 times x 59 times 100. Then we would do our little algebra thing and divide by the 75, which would give you the exact same answer. What was that answer? 78 point, whatever we, I should have had 78.7 earlier, my bad. I just realized my mistake. I made that 6 into a 9, I think I did. But anyway, it should have been 78.7, rounded to the nearest tenth of a percent. So anyway, that's probably not what you're going to do. You're probably going to do it on your calculator and just say 59 divided by 75 equals as a decimal, then move your decimal point 2 places right, and then it's a percent form. But just kind of, this helps us to see that is really what we're doing when we're changing a fraction to a percent. We're saying 59 is to 75 as what is to 100, comparing it to 100. That's what a percent is all about. All right, now I have some U-tries for you, so please pause the video. You've got a list of these. I also talked about, like, what does 15% mean, so I had that up here too. 15% means 15 out of 100. But your U-tries, let's do the first 7 if you want to pause the video, and then I'll put those answers and talk to you a little bit more. So please go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and change this into the final answer, 68 divided by 79. It comes out to be 0.86075, but then we move it to right and makes it 86.075. So I'm going to round all these to the tenths place, the tenths of a percent. So that rounds it up to 1, or 86.1% would be my final answer. This one comes out perfectly as 75%. This one comes out to be 80%, 84%. Let's see, what was 5 sevens? 5 sevens, I had to do some rounding. 71.4%. And lastly, 50 divided by 100. That's exactly what we're doing. That would be 50%. And then you had a reading application. It asked people in a survey, at what age do you think you consider someone to be owed? And it said 1,017 out of the 3,496 respondents felt like 80 was the age when people are considered owed. All right, so then that would be 1,017 is the amount divided by the total respondents to get your percent. How much is this out of that? So same thing we've been doing up here, but just a little more application based. And that came out to be 29.1%. About a third of us think that's when you're considered officially owed, according to this survey. All right, then the next section we're going to go into talks about finding the percent of change, the percent of change. So look at that with me, and you'll see some examples there. For example, say that gas price rose from $2.35 to $2.97 in a short period of time. Find the percent of change. So to find the percent of change, you subtract to find the amount of change, and then you always divide it by the before amount. You're always dividing by previous, before, original price when you do these. So that kind of helps you with the method for all of these. To find the percent of change, so again, pause the video and work on those 3 problems, please. So in number 8, we'll subtract to see how much it's changed. It changed by 62 cents. We will divide by the 235, not necessarily because it's the smaller amount, because it could be smaller or larger. That is not what we go by. We go by what was the previous amount. If it's a decrease, it's going to go down, and increase, it's going up. So, that doesn't matter, but you subtract, find the amount it's changed, which is 62 cents, and then divide by the previous stated. It went from 235 up to 297. So we divide by the previous amount. So whenever you do that division on your calculator, just like all the other ones, we divide then the amount there to change it into a percent form. The next example, Sue is getting a big raise. She's going from $10.55 up to $22.70. Big raise for her. So find the percent of change. Again, you subtract those 2 values. So using your calculator, maybe you subtract and you find out she's getting a $12.15 raise. Yay for Sue. And then you want to divide by the previous amount, which was $10.55 is what she used to make. So you always divide by the previous stated one, unless otherwise stated some way. But And for our purposes, we're always dividing by the original earlier amount. So we do that division on our calculator, and we find that to be 1.1516, and so on. Now, you may question whether you've already got it in a good form or not, but never should you, because we have not moved it 2 places to make it a percent. Once you do your division, we must go 2 places to make it into a percent. So this person got more than 100% raise. 100% raise would be they doubled your salary, right? So if you got 100% of what you were making before as a raise, if you were making $10, now you're making $20. That would have been 100% raise. But anyway, she made a little more than double. She made 115.2% of her original amount. That was her raise. All right, one more here, number 10. Joe lost weight. He went from 215 pounds to 195 pounds. So that's a loss. We're going to have a decrease, an amount of decrease for our change. So we subtract those. He lost 20 pounds. You always divide by the earlier amount. He used to weigh 215, so that was the previous, the original. So we're dividing by that. So 20 divided by 215 is 0.0932 as a decimal. Then 2 places right makes 9.32. I'm going to do 9.3 to the nearest tenth of a percent. All right, then you can pause again. Let's read this next set. Is similar. It's almost the same stuff, but we're going to talk about retailers, how that they have markup and markdown on their merchandise. So thinking of it, really the same method, but thinking of it from a different perspective. If you're looking for the percent of markup or markdown on cost, the cost will be what it costs the merchant to purchase this stuff, whatever. If it's a shirt, if they purchased it for $5, if they purchased it for $50, whatever the cost of the merchant was, that's going to be your base amount or your original amount that we're going to be dividing by. So you base it off of their cost. So it's the same thing we do here. We subtract to see what the markup or markdown is. So subtracting, and then always divide by the cost to the merchant to find out, because that's what we're basing their marking up and marking down is off of what it costs them to purchase it. All right, so pause again if you want to work on those next few examples before I move on. All right, I'm going to keep rolling. Number 11, we've got Atkins Hardware. They pay $48.76 for a gas fireplace screen. They sell them for $79.88. Find the percent of markup. So you subtract those two to find the amount of markup, just like before, but dividing is always by the previous, what it cost Atkins Hardware in this case. It costs to purchase that. The cost to the merchant is what we divide by. So do that division. It's 0.638228. As a percent, 63.8%. Okay, number 12, TJ Maxx. I like a little TJ Maxx shopping. TJ Maxx buys a shirt for $10. They sell it on a loss. Actually, instead of marking it up, they're going to mark it down. It costs them $10, so we're going to be dividing by $10. But then they sell it for $4.60. So we subtract our $10 and our $4.60 to find the amount of the markup or markdown. So subtracting, and then divide by what it costs the merchant to purchase their cost to purchase that item. So when we do that division, it's 0.64, which would be 64 even, 60.0 or 64%. All right, so I think I'll pause there and come back in on the next little section and talk to you some more about 10.1.